No, I know, just. Whatever. No, what's not in there? She didn't even say, so if she's fine with
Here's
this.
Craig.
She did her egg.
Sorry.
Oh,
She's the chick.
give it to you.
She-
And it's sitting for me. I don't know, just give it when I'm sorry.
So.
No,
No, no. I have to make it. Works. Yeah, he's let me just wink or something.
Mr. Chairman, you all set?
Right.
Everybody, okay? I'd like to call the Smithfield School Committee, the Smithfield Town Council work session to order and get a salute to the flag.
I told her.
United States and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Emergency evacuation and health notification.
In the event that the council chambers has to be evacuated, there are two exits, one to the very rear. That exit, if you go through that exit, immediately to your right is a stairwell that goes out to the front of the building. To my right and your left here in the chamber, in the front of the chamber, another exit that if you take that stairwell, takes you out to the side of the building. If there should be an emergency, please do not use the elevator. Ladies' room and men's room immediately out the rear entrance of the council chambers. Men's room is to the right, 3 stairs up. On the left is the ladies' room.
Thank you. Item number D, discuss process of the school project requiring town council approval. Mr. Chairman,
This was discussed at the November 15th meeting, basically out of that meeting,
excuse me, Mr. Chairman, can you talk into the mic because it's on video?
yeah, okay, sorry about that.
That's okay.
This was discussed at the November 13th meeting. And at the November 13th meeting, basically two major things came out of that, and that was make sure there was accuracy in any documents and where the funding source would be. The other thing that came up, there had been questions sometime over the summer with some of the actual votes that had to be taken. And those are kind of one-offs because they were all part of the emergency program, and so things were kind of being done fast. Typical things that will not happen. The order will be school committee, town council, which is what it always has been. This summer was a little crazy with those emergency funds.
Thank you. Any questions from the council? Hearing none. Item E, discuss the findings of the high school football locker room investigation. Mr. Chairman, I'm going to skip that because there's still pending litigation from the Attorney General's office. I did speak to RIDE. There was no investigation on RIDE. So I don't want to dip our toes into anything that's pending litigation. So I'd like to skip that if that's okay with you. Okay. Item F, discuss town council school committee liaison. Mr. Manager?
Good evening. In the information you have for tonight, I had put together my suggestion for it. Obviously, whatever you want to do is fine, but I did do some research on it. And unfortunately, there really isn't a ton of material out there. Although I found several school systems that actually have liaison committees, which they tend to be larger school systems that have multiple schools, and the committee actually, not only does it talk with the school, the committee is formed to deal with the town fathers and the school committee, and they reach out to the schools as well. So that's a different, very kind of a different setup than we talked about at the November meeting. So what I did put down in here for your consideration is a very simple concept where each of the governing bodies select a liaison member. The town council selects one to be a liaison to the school committee. School committee selects one to be a liaison to the town council. And basically, they would maintain contact throughout the month. Anything important that needs to go from one body to the other could go through those two people. Any members of either body that had questions for the other body could reach out to those two people, get the information. This way, it doesn't require any kind of open meetings issue, quorums or whatnot. And then I suggested that at your regular meetings of each body, your respective liaison can report out on any issues of the month that needs to be discussed. And out of that discussion, other questions obviously could come up, and again, they could go back between the two. So that's obviously a very simple type of liaison setup, but I think for getting started, something like that or similar to that may be a good way to start off and see what it grows into. So that's a recommendation for you to consider.
Mr. Chairman? Any,
But the members will certainly look this over. I think they all got the email that recommended something. So certainly can look into that for a future meeting.
Yeah, I personally have no concerns with having a liaison program. I think it's a great idea. I do like the language in this. I think we could probably tighten it up a little bit more to make requirements that, I think it has great intentions, but I think if we can just tighten, required, whether it's once a month, whatever it is, so that there's a set goal that has to be adhered to by both liaison. I do like the idea of having a readout. I think there's times that it could be plentiful and others that, may be sort of light, but it keeps the communication going, and I think it's a great idea. What would our process for this be? We're not putting a policy around this, correct? So would it's not like it's going into the charter review. So how do we want to, I think things like this and some other things we discussed tonight, right? I just want to make sure every topic we come out of, we know what the action items are and how we're moving forward. And if there's a task, we know who's assigned to it. So something like this, how do we move forward with it? What's your ideas there?
I think if we agree to it, to the concept, then the next step would be for each body, both the school committee and town council, to select someone to be the liaison for that body.
Right, but we
Yeah.
should have I agree. In addition to that, we should have like a document like this one that then gets filed somewhere that is sort of our benchmark, right? Of kind of, it sets our standard and what we're adhering to and gives us a place to check back in on things.
Perhaps we can come up with a memorandum of understanding,
Yeah. Nope,
and
Well, I would-
that incorporates.
Run it out for a year and then say, all right, listen, these are all the things that we've learned.
Yep. Oh,
And
absolutely.
then say, all right, let's revisit this and then take all that. And in the meantime, we can also go out and look, just like town manager did, and said, maybe we can find something to also help bolster what we're going to put in place.
I think what you asked was like an initial procedure of how it's going to work, correct? So if everybody's in favor of moving in that direction, I think Lisa and I could draft something for the two bodies to look at and get the thing going. And then obviously it'd be a work in progress, if you want to do something like that.
The only thing, I don't know, Jess, if you mentioned, but like a timeline. So how long is that liaison put in? Is it every election cycle? We're staggered or not? Is it 1 year and we're looking at it? I would like to see, while you're both properly looking at it, is the timeline of just, these liaisons need September, October, November, just set.
Well, my thought process, this is gonna be ongoing. They can talk to each other 5 times a week if they want to, but they should report monthly. If maybe nothing's happened over the month or maybe something has, you know? Yeah, I agree. There should be, I think as part of the procedure, but this is, I think if you get it too complicated, you're gonna lose this can start tomorrow. Just pick up the phone and call. I mean, that's what Lisa and I do. So, and that's what I did with Dawn. And we don't need to make this too complicated to open up the line of communication. So if, I like your idea, but I think, I hate to see this thing get held off because we want to get too sophisticated.
Yes.
Exactly. No, exactly. Right. No, I got you. Yeah. And Lisa, we can, yeah, right.
And then whatever issues you may have, or questions you may have, or suggestions you may have, give it to Lisa. And then her and Bob can discuss it and put it in a document.
Well, I had a question and then a comment afterwards. Do we know which towns have this right now? Are we aware of that?
The only one I'm aware of, and it's on the East Bay, and I forget if it's Middletown, Barrington, or which two communities it was. And there was no real documentation about how they run the thing,
Mhm.
but there was their minutes were posted, and but there wasn't a lot about how they actually put it together.
Okay, I'll just come at it from a different perspective. While I am by no means against a liaison program, I don't think I could do it because I'm just concerned it's going to be a heavy lift, right? Attending council meetings, attending school committee meetings. And there's also my understanding that the school committee meetings fall on the same night as planning board. That's not going to work. That's a really big problem. So that's my concern with that. It's just, we have so much on our plate. We have to attend other meetings. My opinion is that the heads of administration should be the liaisons to each board as they sort of are already. So again, I'm not against this. If whoever wants to do it, pick up the heavy lift, go for it. But I would be concerned about that.
Something not.
Right.
And I think whatever we can put into place to build communication and build a relationship, we need it. So I think, yes, we have great people working together, but the 5 of us and the 5 in town council, we need something and we need to come together. Now, every meeting, personally, when we're saying that, I'm like, yeah, no, I'm out. Like an extra meeting added onto my plate would be overwhelming, but if we have great connection, the person on town council could essentially share out to the person. And our meetings are recorded, so are yours, so you can watch it when we're home or whatever.
What is the purpose? I understand what you're saying, Member Fafford. What was I just gonna say? So isn't one of the purposes of this to have the member there to answer questions and comment and things like that?
So
Well, I mean,
Councilwoman, that wasn't
I'm not sure
necessarily.
that At one of your meetings, a school committee member could comment. I'm not sure at one of our meetings, you guys could comment because,
Why not? Public comment,
well, you can make a comment, but it's not a comment of the council.
correct. That's
Okay.
correct.
As long
Right,
as That's
right.
understood.
Exactly.
And the school committee member is not making the opinion or whatever the school committee.
True.
So I mean, I was thinking while we're all talking over here, we have 3 members that have multiple children. All 5 of us work 2 own businesses. And I can see the heavy lift. I was actually going to ask the school committee when we do discuss this, and we probably will talk about it next Thursday night at our next meeting. Maybe if somebody wants to try it on a 3-month, 4-month, some type of basis like that and get it rolling. But I know this was another thing was brought up on November 13th. And in general, we thought it was a good idea. Now there seems to be a little bit of meat on the bone. So I'm sure we can work something else out.
I don't think it's not that Councilwoman, my thought was that person who's the liaison, when they meet at your body's meeting, they just report out what they've been discussing with their counterpart on the other, so that we don't take up as much time. The majority of the discussion would be, hey, a phone call here and there, hey, what about this? But I don't know that it's really necessary for that liaison to go to the meeting, because whatever comes out of your meeting, they go back to the other person. And I kind of thought that would be better to keep the time commitment down for people. But that was my thought
Yeah.
process.
I understand what you're saying, Matt. Just one other thing. So how would we account for the transparency issue with the public on these interactions et cetera. I mean, I know any of us can call any one of us at any time. But because this will be an official thing, and I'm not suggesting that anyone's gonna do anything nefarious. I just, we want to make sure that, what's
I
being
think we would, that would be taken care of when we report to the council and your liaison would report to the school committee. That would be the public disclosure of, what the issues are.
Right.
And
We could put it on
would
the
make that,
agenda.
I think it's important to make it, a regular thing on the agenda. And, if there's nothing to report, then there's nothing this month or this week to report, then that's fine. But I think, I agree. I think it should be as simple as possible. Let's start it out as simple and as informal as possible. And see how it works, see how it goes. And then if it's not working, then we'll try something else because
Well, I think you would learn as you go along. And
exactly.
then that
Right.
what works, you take in, what doesn't work, you get rid of.
I'm certain about one thing, what we're doing now isn't working. So
Madam Superintendent.
anything we try is,
Say that we had a similar setup in Foster Gloucester while I was there as the assistant superintendent. It was not anything formal, but there was a representative from the town, one of the town councils to attend our meetings. We only met monthly. The school committee met monthly instead of, twice a month. She did attend the meetings and then reported out at the town council meeting what, happened at our meeting and anything that they needed to communicate with. So it was more of the town council was coming to the school committee meeting and then reporting back to the town council. There was not a representative that was assigned from the school committee to the town, but it's something there's something similar. We could certainly touch base with Foster and Gloucester to see how it's going. I don't know if it's still in place. It's been a couple of years since I've been there, but we could certainly take a look and make a contact there and get a little bit more of when Bob and I sit down, we can, use their experience to help us draft that agreement.
Okay, thank you. Any others? Any other questions? Concerns?
Just a comment. I'm in favor of it. Keeping it as informal as possible. And I think it could be a very useful tool moving forward. But as long as, as long as the right person is selected and you make the most of it, I think it could be helpful moving forward. But just like you said, keep it simple.
Thank you. Anyone else? Hearing none, we'll go to item G. Discuss the Boyle Athletic Complex loan. Mr. Chairman, you want to start?
Not really. In terms of this here, we talked about this also on November 13th. My understanding was there was going to be some type of proposal maybe put forth by the manager to the superintendent, et cetera. Without that, I mean, I still haven't changed any, my position on this thing. I did not like the way it came about and I don't like the way it's trying to be, solved, I guess.
Hey, Mr. Manager?
So I will be proposing in my budget, couple of things. Number one, we had discussed the naming of the field. I know Dawn was involved with that initially, and I don't know to what extent Lisa is at this point. So the number's around 756,000, I believe. If we get somebody with naming rights for the field over whatever periods of time, and that's something that I know Dawn and I were going back as far as, what's the cost of somebody naming the field? So whatever that were to come out to, if we do that, could be reduced from the 756, for example, whatever that number is. I'm going to be proposing from there that the school's reserve capital fund that we put money into every year, that a small portion of that be put towards paying off the loan, so that over a period of time it'll go away and the money we put back into the coffers of the town. The other thing I'm going to suggest in the budget is we start a fund for replacing that field, because in 12 to 14 years from now, it's going to have to be replaced. And there isn't going to be enough money raised through any kind of advertising you're looking at over $1 million. So my suggestion will be in my budget to the town council is that we start that fund now with seed money and every year put money in there so that when the 12, 14 years comes around, we're not looking at a very large payment to have to put out to replace that field. So those are those are what I'm going to be recommending in the budget. I had a brief discussion with Lisa about it and our finance director, Caitlin. So that's the direction I'm looking at right now.
Did we get reimbursement from the state for any of that concession stand part of the project?
Anything that's gone in that met the requirements has gotten reimbursement. Anything that's a loan, you'll have to give back.
So the number we're talking about is around, I think it was 750, that
56, I believe.
minus what was the reimbursement?
767.
Well, I
No,
have a
we
question
should
on
get
this
that
dollar
one.
amount part too. I mean, where's that number coming? Question one. It would seem to me that if you're looking for something to fill a gap, it would be whatever gap was left after all the other funding sources were used up.
What funding sources are those?
The 2 million that the school department put in, all of the reimbursement from the state for housing aid.
Well, did we get that money back into the 756?
I'm not saying that. I'm talking the entire project. See, this number 756 is kind of what was the pie in the sky way back in,
No,
years
it was put out to finish the project.
it was, right. What I'm saying is I don't know that that's the exact number. I would want to look at the actual
What's the number
numbers.
What's the number then?
The number the town gave you.
So,
I have it right here. It's in the minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, 767, 389, 71.
see, there you go, right there, 767, 756, but that was the amount of money that was necessary then. I would just like to see the whole accounting of the whole thing. That was never done. I talked with our prior finance director a number of times as to all the various adjustments that had to be made, and they were not made. The prior manager was going to sit down with her at one point to do all these adjustments. That part never took place. Now neither of them are there.
What do you mean by adjustments, Mr. Chair?
Well, adjustments in terms of where money is coming from. Okay,
Okay.
That's not for tonight. Just, I would like to actually see the actual number, to see all the funds that came out, all the money that was expended, not just what was approved at a school committee or a town council meeting. Okay, and I don't know if you caught my part though. If it's considered a loan, the state of Rhode Island will be asking for money back on the housing aid. They don't give money on loans. So that is changing that number. Okay, so it's an important thing to look at there as well.
My understanding that was not part of the reimbursement process.
That's the only, we have another thing. That's why I think we really need to look at this finance.
Well, we will, but that money has to be paid back.
Well, can I just say something? I apologize, Vice Chair. The term loan has been thrown around. I mean, I have the motion right here. I have the minutes from that meeting. It wasn't a loan. We loaned them the money, but it wasn't a loan.
Right.
So officially, legally, I mean, I'm not speaking for the solicitor, but it doesn't appear that it's officially a loan. We're just sort of, letting you borrow it until I can read the motion if you want.
Correct. And in the meeting where this actually came in front of the school committee, I specifically asked a question as to where the money was coming from and how it would be repaid, because we had already exhausted our 2 million and did not have the funding for this. The video of that meeting cannot be found by the town or the school, so unfortunately I can't bring that back up. But to your point, there is no documented loan. If you were to go anywhere to get a loan of any way, shape or form, even a personal loan from a family member, you would typically write something down, have some sort of terms, have something. We have nothing. Nobody, I can't speak for everybody, but I don't disagree that the money needs to be funded and that we want to collaborate and partner on this. But the concept of it being a loan that the school department needs to pay back is false. Secondly, to address a couple of other points, we do already have an account that is built for the ongoing maintenance. The funding for that account will come from advertising, field rental. We do have a ways to go to formalize all of that, but that is a motion in process. The other thing for your recommendations, naming rights, I 100% agree with. I think naming rights would absolutely go towards this. This seems like a great idea. I would have a big problem with any type of dollars from capital improvements being allocated towards this. We have been, for lack of a better term, shorted for dollars of capital improvements over the years. We have an enormous amount of capital improvements to do at that school, and we cannot take money out for
Well,
this.
how do you suggest we pay back the money that's owed to the taxpayers?
I think that we have to come with a plan in place. I think our
Well,
first
the
problem
plan
was
is we're
that
gonna
we
pay it
didn't
back.
fully put a plan in place when this was voted on. And that is the fault of multiple people involved, both on the building committee or the Boyle Athletic Complex Committee. And that we didn't, to my point earlier, I know it was a different topic, right? When we're talking about this meeting, we didn't cross our Ts and dot our Is. You say we have a loan, but you have no proof of what this loan.
Well,
looks
where do you
like or how-
expect the money to come from?
I don't know. I don't have
The
all.
project
answers.
got done, the
Saying
kids
it
are
should come
taking
from
advantage of it. And I'm still proposing what I'm going to propose because that money has to get paid back.
Absolutely.
Because quite frankly, after
Part I
I've
don't
gone
agree.
through the Overbrook process, I don't think this council or any council had the authority to give that money.
That's a problem in
Yeah.
itself. I don't disagree.
I know, so I'm just saying this thing needs to be cleaned up.
100%.
And so if we go through the books and we can have Caitlin do it with your new finance director, look at where all the monies was, what went into it and what got paid out of it and what you got reimbursed, we should be able to see what's left over, correct? Does that sound correct?
Yes.
Then we can see what that number is. But I'm telling you that I will be proposing that to them to use some of the capital money. I mean, we gave you 500,000 last year. We've been trying to increase that. I know the Budget and Finance Review Board's trying to increase it. To take a little bit out to get that money back to the taxpayers where it belongs is reasonable.
Right.
Because I don't know where else it's going to come from. We don't want to take it out of your budget.
So that simple accounting document, I feel like we've talked about this like 5 times at this point. Just how do we move forward? Who takes that task tonight and then presents that document that shows the monies and how do we move forward? We have to put a better plan in place.
Our finance director will do it with your finance director.
Okay.
It should
Do
be
you have
those
a
two
date
have the
that we can
numbers.
by? And I don't, this isn't like, this is just how we collaborate, right? How do we tonight decide what is a reasonable date of when we can have this and where do we regroup so we can start to chip away and make progress? So I feel like we've been in the same spot for about a year.
What I'd like to see is a plan to move forward, to actually go out and see if we can, get businesses to contribute money in exchange for the naming rights, to actually do it. Because this is what was supposed to have been done by the Boyle Committee. In fact, it looks looking at the transcripts, it looks like people were actually assigned to do that. And it never got done. So why don't we do that? And then we'll find out, what kind of a hole we're in. That and of course, finding out if it is a reimbursable project or not from the state.
So
It wasn't a loan. We fronted the money in anticipation that we were going to go out and get businesses to contribute money for the naming rights. You can't loan money to yourself. It was just.
That's how it was sold in the very beginning, and it was very clear. The school department looked over everything. We said, we approved $2 million, which we did, and that's what we paid. And now to come back and say more, that's the part that leaves a bad taste in most of our mouth to make it sound like, we were the ones who did it. We weren't the ones who did it. I mean, what could have actually happened is the project could have been stopped when all the money ran out instead of forwarding more money. That could have happened. It didn't happen. I like the facility that was put in place, but that can't happen again. I already spoke to the budget, the Charter Review Commission. That type of project should never happen again. There's got to be clear funding in advance where it's coming from before any town commits things.
I have a question for the solicitor, and I would agree. We just need to move forward. I mean, most of these people that were responsible for this, aside from, I approved, the motion was approved 5-0, but we need to just figure out a plan. We keep blaming people and this and that. But my question for the solicitor is that because the minutes are a legal document, so the motion says a specific thing, the minutes say a specific thing. So we essentially have to follow this, correct?
That was a record of the vote.
The record of the vote. Yeah, and it says, I'll just, well, they said they would do it. So, you have to do, you have to repay. Because it's a legal document in the minutes, essentially. It's not like you can't do that.
The question
right?
is what are you repaying? Like Richard said, if you need some sort of accounting, you probably should need to get an accounting.
Right, aside from that, yeah.
Whatever then itemized, see what the reimbursements were. Obviously, the town did expend or appropriate
Mhm.
$767,000 change. The question is what was the understanding at the time?
Mhm.
the appropriation was made.
So what would happen since, let's just say, none of these people are in these positions anymore? You know,
That,
who is held responsible at this point?
well,
Like legally?
right now, everybody needs to try and move forward and figure
No, I
out how you're gonna address what happened.
For moving
Yeah.
forward is what I'm saying. So,
Right now it's
yeah.
us.
Yeah, I know.
It's us.
We have to fill that gap to
We're in charge.
Yeah, I
balance the
know.
budget. I can talk to Caitlin tomorrow, have her reach out to John. They can figure out how much time it would take him to go through those, because I know John just got started and he's got other things to do. And let them two get back to us, and we can let both bodies know when they can get it back to us. You know, if it's a couple of weeks or 3 weeks, I know they got, they got budget time now, so it's kind of a crazy time. But at least they can plan for it and we can get the numbers from them. Does that sound like a?
Absolutely.
Madam
Yeah.
Superintendent.
And part of the, conversation we had at the last school committee meeting, as I reported out on where we were, to your question, Chairperson, that, it's an involved process. So if we did want to have someone really be actively soliciting for, any kind of naming rights or sponsorship, I've done some research on what other districts are doing. Many districts in the state actually don't allow such advertising on their fields. They actually have policies around that, but there are a handful. Many have a person that they hire to do that because it is, it's a lot of work. It's not just, knocking on the door. Someone would have to be, actively soliciting that. Others have, contracted out with a company who helps kind of manage the field as well as doing their advertising and soliciting for those. So that certainly is a conversation that we can have as we go through the budget process as well, if that's something that we could potentially fund. Barville, for example, has someone, and as part of their job, they're also doing communications, but they're also doing advertising, grant writing, and so it's wrapped into there. So as part of their work, it's helping to fund that position. So they're getting grants for other projects, and then that also helps pay for their position. Certainly something that we can look at as a way to come up with a plan of, to your point, the who and the how, and, otherwise, if that's as the body, if the school committee wants that to be a, priority and a big chunk of my time, just trying to balance out who should be doing it and to what extent, they all want me to be spending time on that, which I'm happy to do, but, I'm only one person and currently holding 3 hats, but let's figure it out. Yes. We're looking at, right, if really when the projection that we have, and Angela, keep me honest, the projection that we have to repair in about 10 years, just that top layer is close to 3 million. 3 million for that. And then in another 10 years will be both the top and that second layer underneath. Some districts have where the town has, already agreed that they're going to maintain that. So it really depends. We can look at a couple of different structures on how to come up with a plan for the replacement piece as well as the $750,000-ish.
Thank you. Any other questions from the council?
Well, we have a lot of sports enthusiasts in the town. Town loves the sports, so maybe some of our businesses would come forward. Someone needs to start approaching them.
In the meantime.
Maybe we should all
I think we should review all that they have, and then maybe the
once
two
we find
liaison,
right.
whoever they are, we can kind of grab that information, disseminate it, and then move forward.
Okay.
Can I ask a question? And this sort of bleeds into some of the other discussions that we'll have tonight. So I apologize if we're jumping a bit. We won't get too far into it, but the ice rink, right? The ice rink is a town facility. There's advertisement in there. Do you have, is that the manager of the rink that does that? How are they working that?
So
They do size it, right?
Well,
So-
I have a sign, John, you have a sign. We directly
Okay.
deal directly
So
with TJ.
I doubt he has bandwidth to take this on as well, but is that one of those things?
No,
that
he
we
was
can
hired a
have?
company now, Tom. TJ doesn't do it by himself. He has a company now.
Right. So,
And they get a percentage.
right. Makes sense.
Yeah.
But so opportunity there, that company, can the school department share that hire? Do we get a better rate if we share that resource? What type of work do they do? Is it only finding? Is it, just information on that would be great.
Okay. We'll get that. Item H, discuss the Boyle Athletic Complex field maintenance. I think we just covered that.
No.
Actually, no, this is different.
Yeah, this was something else that I had on there. And I'm hoping to just get more clarity. And again, I apologize, but I'm a document person. And I know when we talked about the first item, like everybody doesn't want to put like too much around it. But my fear is when we don't document and we don't have something, then things fall quickly. So it's only from a perspective of wanting stability and consistency. We can move past that one, Richard. Moving on. So this isn't, I apologize again, the athletic complex field. It's not solely just to that, but it's more, I'd like a better understanding of what the business plan is on how the fields are managed. So my understanding is that Parks, which is part of a town department, manages all of the fields, including the baseball fields, the basketball field, sorry, not basketball, baseball field, softball field, GMS, Willow, Mendy's, all of those fields, right? So what's the actual, list of things that that department covers versus what Angelo covers? I don't have clarity for that. And as a school committee member, I'd love to have some more clarity on that. I believe the Parks Department does all sorts of work at the high school for the baseball field, the seating, the lining. They work with the athletic director, they work with the principals. So, but then Angelo, correct me if I'm wrong, if it was like a fence issue, that's on Angelo's plate. If it was electrical, that's on Angelo. So is there any living, breathing document that tells us who does what and how that's owned? And furthermore, the turf expense itself. So I believe that the Parks Department funds the expense for that field right now. So that involves impact testing, grooming, checking the infield mix, things like that. And I believe it's a cost of around $7,000 a year. That yearly maintenance, I assume, should be shifted to be included in whatever fund we have that starts for the rebuilding, right? So we know in 10 years, it's going to cost 3 million, but that $7,000, is that built into the parks budget? Does it stay there? Again, just sort of like information and clarity on where those owned responsibilities are. Do they exist today?
Yeah, I can answer that. So Gene takes care of that. That comes out of the parks budget. And they come in 8 times a year to do all the maintenance on the football field. And then all the miscellaneous maintenance around there with grass or whatever that has to be fixed. Gene's people take care of it. But we do have an annual contract on that field. And like I said, they come out 8 times a year. So in general, if something comes up, Gene's people take care of it. And I think they collaborate with you, Angelo, on different maintenance things. So that is under contract for and they kind of treat it similarly to the other fields as far as when something has to be taken care of. But there's a third party that takes care of the field.
And so is it field only? And if it's, so like the berm or the pavement on that island in between the two, was that all school departments? I'm just
No.
looking to see like where.
Which one are you referring
No,
to?
like the island, it was a mess for a few years and we had asked for help to get that corrected. There were tree stumps in it, people were tripping. It was, the little island in between the roadway for the highway.
The physical repairs to it or just maintaining the grass?
The above, just,
No, I don't think physical repairs still come under you, right, Angelo? Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I want to be clear, my concern is not with collaboration. I think things are going really well. Things are getting done. Just for accurate budgeting purposes, I can't tell what's our responsibility and what's your responsibility in some of these areas. And I just want to be able
Well,
to.
if it's not grass, maintaining the grass, shrubs, basic lawn keeping, et cetera, taking care of the fields, it's a repair item under Angelo's budget. If the curbing has to be replaced, however, these projects sometimes can just be done by DPW if he works out, like when we took down the greenhouse was, so it's not defined, there's nothing that defines everything to the T.
So here's a perfect example. We get complaints from parents on the softball and baseball teams that there's no irrigation in the field, so the grass is terrible. Who's
Gene has
budget?
been working on the irrigation, so.
So the town is working.
He
on the
has been
irrigation.
working on that. We added it to some of the other fields and I know we've also working with the baseball club or whatever. They like to put a
Booster
fence
club.
up. So I've been trying to see if we can get funds to help them with that as well. I think Angelo, I don't think I don't think we've done any sprinklers in any of the school fields recently, if I'm not on the school fields. Right. 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 But I mean, that's something that, you know, those are some of the things that if we get on the radar screen, Gina's really good about that stuff as far as, okay, we can fit that in with another project and, you know, we can figure out how to do it. So, probably more importantly, to have that list of things that need to be done so we can fit them in. But if the exact list, unfortunately, there's nothing. And that's something we can certainly work on. But I think when the transition occurred, it wasn't that specific, you know?
Well, and maybe just somebody from Parks attending one of our budget sessions to hear
Yeah.
it when we talk specifically about those. I know they don't want to hear about desks being replaced. That certainly wouldn't be under your purview, but maybe there's another collaboration opportunity there just to make sure we're not missing anything and utilizing all our
Why don't
opportunities.
you let us know, and then either Gina, Ralph, or Paul, who's in charge of the parks, can attend. And because there's some stuff that Gene has lined up that's kind of, you know, he's
Right.
thinking ahead a little bit.
Right.
So that would be,
Would be something that we'd love to hear an update on too, right? So I have no visibility to the fact that, you know, maybe the council has under their purview the hydration system or the sprinkler system for the baseball fields. And that's information that we can give back to our constituents as well.
technically the fields are falling under DPW and parks now.
Yeah,
So
10 years ago when they,
The town versus school
when they
budget.
broke it up, that's anything that was grass covered pretty much was what was taken over by the town. Anything asphalt or, you know, basketball court, any of that stuff was still handled by the school department. That was a,
No Gallagher, the boys, they go, field name right off Pleasant View. However, who takes care of Gallagher's softball? Is that the town too?
Yeah.
Okay. That was often overlooked in softball parents, photo road. As softball season rounds up, making sure the girls have equitable fields. Looks.
yeah, I mean, if there's something specific with it, please let Angelo know so we can take care of it.
I mean, there has to be some sort of list that Gene can come up with. I would like to know, we're throwing out this field, that field, this field. So let's just put it in a document. That would be my suggestion. Well, and the berms and all that, like whatever you guys were referring to before. To get the scope of what we would do versus not. The
Anything
town.
else? I shrink usage.
another one from the side.
So for this one, we get a ton of questions on this in a couple of different ways. One of the biggest questions we get is the actual cost for a family to attend the rink. So say you're a family of 5, I don't know what the exact total is. I think it's $5 a person, right? And you have a couple hockey games in a week. Your costs to attend that for your family to see your own child play is pretty significant in the scheme of things when you compare it to any other sport. My question is, why are our town residents paying the same entry fee that our out of town residents are paying, especially when we're hosting, I think we're the home rink for LaSalle and other, possibly other schools. In addition to that, and we can talk about this piece by piece, I just question what the actual process is. Again, is there a document that says, hey, if Smithfield has a game, like they take precedence, but then LaSalle takes second precedence, and then do like town or privately owned leagues take third precedence? Like, what is the process of how that happens? And then the review of the finances. So I'm just curious, like, how much do we make off of the rink and where does all of that money go? Is there public documents that show the breakdown of the rink and sort of, I know it's a heavy cost. I know keeping ice cold in August is challenging, right? So what is the overhead and the breakdown and the funding of, you know, has anybody ever stood at the door and used like a pitch count to see how many people are coming in? It's a cash business, right? How many people are coming in? How much do we make off of that? What's operating versus cost? I know we have our breakdown. The acting superintendent was able to provide that to us of what we pay out of the school department, but I'd love to see the bigger picture.
The issue of high school hockey, Maya's been around it for a long time. They set the rate. As far as
Elastic League.
the Scholastic League.
That's the rate
They set the rate
what we're paying.
of every ticket that goes in. They have an accounting person there that takes the money, counts the money, and puts a sheet. The last time I knew,
Yeah, I
they'd have a
believe
sheet.
that's
Still
the
there.
report that they do. Is
Right.
They control.
Right.
100%.
So they track the number of tickets, they track the amount of money. I don't know what the split is now, whether the town gets 50%, they get 50%. I'm not sure of that.
But
But
that's
we can
decided-
get, what's that?
That's decided by RIIL.
Yes, yep. But we can get you that information.
That would be great. And then also, like I said, what are we charging other towns? What are we actually making off of the rink? Just to
Talking
get
about
the-
ice time hours,
the whole picture of the rink. How much does it cost the town to operate? And then how much we have incoming from either other districts or private leagues.
So we can do a review of the whole thing. So the town sports teams get a reduction from the out of town. And then right now the tickets are $6 a piece, 10 for $50, which is just the new rate. And we could consider a family plan for residents of the town. We can do that.
We can do that even if our.
Well, because it depends what's going on in the rink. So
how much is gonna being given back?
yeah, so my thought after listening to what you had to say is we do a family rate. So people who are there frequently versus somebody that comes once a month or something like that, because, and remember, that's an enterprise account, so all the money stays in that account, and unfortunately, we're at a situation right now where the equipment that runs that ice rink is extremely old. And it's been breaking down on a regular basis, and we're
Can't get
trying to
parts.
put, it's hard to get parts. And we're trying to do some revamping and a little fixing up of the place. It's been like that for a long time. So we're actually gonna put a new hot water system in because the old one doesn't work properly. It's a couple of projects on the radar screen right now. So, but Caitlin has a full accounting of the enterprise account for that rink.
Okay, great.
Vice Chair, it sounds like you're also wanting to know how they prioritize who gets ice time.
Yes.
I remember a couple years ago, and I believe it was brought to President Sassoni's attention as well, per the article, that people were complaining that there wasn't enough ice time for the residents in town, public. And then also another league, and I don't remember which one it was, but I would like to know that as well. We could ask him that.
I think our kids should get
Priority.
priority. I don't even think our kids should pay, but that's a whole nother thing. But as a person that uses the rink,
Mm.
there's a lot of infrastructure problems. So, you get off the ice, you go in, you take a shower, there's no hot water. You take a cold shower.
They have showers. We don't have showers at the high school.
Well,
I hear you.
so
Uh,
it's,
It's a
well, there's a,
wide problem.
there's an old saying that, well, I don't have to take a shower because of, anyway, that's another story for another day. But
Well,
I just think that our kids don't, it's our rink.
Yes.
The talk about our kids never having to pay, that goes way back. That goes back to the setting up of the rink. It never was put in writing. But there was always sold when they floated the question of the rink was to our kids would have free ice time, and never happened because again, it wasn't put in writing. But we do get a reduced rate. And last I knew, I think it was 50%, but that might change.
It still costs. I mean, I know it
They were having a
costs, but
problem on the girls
think-
sports, the girls team, because they weren't all Smithfield, because it was a co-op team at one time. I don't know how that probably is worth looking into. But with regards to the ice rink, it's an enterprise fund, so it's a little different from everything else in town. It's supposed to make money, and it's supposed to plow the money back into the facilities. Is how it's supposed to operate.
Right.
So, that is, when you look through the when we have the financial account meeting, when we get, they approve the budget, one of the items on there is an enterprise fund for the rink. And so that will give you a general picture of revenue and expenses. It's not going to sit down and break down how much
Right.
it's from.
Well, but just to give to some perspective, we do have people in the audience that are listening. So for the fiscal year 25, the town billed the school department just under $26,000. So that's in addition to our taxes, because we're already paying taxes, right? And then this is tax money, and then we're moving it to the school, and then we're giving you back $25,000. And then all of our students and parents are paying when they get to the rink as well.
This is for ticket fees? This is for
No.
what exactly?
No, this is for ice time. That's for ice.
Oh, ice, just the high school for ice time?
We're
Practice.
Yep.
essentially.
$25,806.25. Yes, so Smithfield pays 15,037 of that, and then the other 10,000 plus comes from the co-op team. So the girls' team is made up of 3 different towns, 3 of us.
I think, I think a lot of the ice time, the parents, they have that group, they raise a lot of money. And that's to
Yes, but-
offset the ice time
Not
and all
just
all
ice
the
cream.
expenses.
All of their equipment is very expensive, and you know that the school department does
hockey
not,
player, I
right?
understand what it
This
is.
Doesn't pay for all of that equipment, right? So other sports, right, if you,
They probably don't pay any, you
Right.
probably get uniform and you probably get a stick.
I don't even know.
So,
I don't know the exact breakdown, so I don't want to say it, but so that booster club funding really, I mean, shouldn't even go towards ice time because you're a taxpayer in this town. That booster club funding should go towards extras. You want a new warm-up suit, you want something that's not really a requirement. So it's
They-
gracious
they
of them
do,
to do
but
that, but
it's, there
Right.
is, it's a, it takes a lot to run a hockey team.
yeah.
That's
I
probably
understand.
our most expensive sport.
So
Absolutely.
you're aware, no tax money goes into the ice rink.
No, so no taxpayer dollar, no budget from yours ever goes to, they self-fund everything. And
That's
does
what it-
any money come out of the rink that goes back to the town?
Yes.
Do you know what?
It's
that-
administrative, it's not that much.
So those are the numbers that I'm looking for.
Yeah, there's an administrative portion that comes out for all the finance and all the stuff like that. So it actually, that little stuff that comes out offsets taxes on the other side. So we don't have to tax that money.
Sure, but that's also coming from LaSalle and Moses Brown and parents from all.
Yeah,
sorts
but
of
it's
towns.
helping all of us in town to reduce our taxes.
I know, I'm just saying it's not technically like taxpayer money. It's not their own money coming back in. So yes, that would be great if we could just have the picture of like what their whole financial operating input, output flows are. And priority, how they prioritize districts and who gets ice time.
All right, item J, discuss shared data folder.
Well, yeah,
Go
it's up and running.
It's up and running. We were asked at the November meeting to get something up and running. I shared that with you last night because I wasn't sure who should have access. I apologize for the lateness of that. But so we created a shared data folder to help the communications of materials. So it was on the agenda to discuss, and so I thought we were waiting till today. So I apologize for not sending that over earlier. That was on me. Again, trying to help the communication between the two bodies. So for future meetings, we'll enter all of our content in there. I gave the town manager access as well. I don't know, Bob, if you had someone, so Lisa Patrone does a lot of the packet information for our end and puts all of that in as the administrative assistant and the clerk to the school committee. So I didn't know if someone else should. also have-
Donna does the.
I didn't want to add folks in there without having a discussion. I added you all and, but I didn't want to give other people access that.
Yeah, I think if we have Donna and Dave DeShano set it up just to make sure we save the folders properly,
Right.
because we're kind of, well, Microsoft and then the Google stuff, it gets a little.
Well,
But I think Dave should be able to help. And then whoever you want to access, we can do the share with them, with the clerk and
So-
have council, whatever you want.
Everybody viewing, right? So that way you could see everything, but then only a couple of us have access to be able to actually put in and remove materials. So if that works okay for you all, again, as a way to try to improve communications with documents. So our goal is, generally how we work, and I'm sure you all as well, when the agenda gets posted, we try to put those materials in actually more than one day in advance, so folks have time to look at it, and it is our intent to do the same.
Yeah, I want to say this is an excellent idea. I think this is really going to help us going forward, but my request is that, and you already said it, that we get this at the very least, all documents, data, backup information for our meetings at the very least 5 days in advance. I prefer them much longer than that. I mean, it's really difficult, but I personally would like them a hard copy as well, and it might work better for distribution purposes if we get them in our council packet, maybe the meeting before our council meeting, the meeting before this work session. But great idea. Thank you for that.
So we'll have to work collaboratively to, set the agenda, much earlier. I think we were still, resolving the agenda items. And so the agenda hadn't been finalized even till Monday when it got posted. So thus the short time.
This
But
meeting-
if,
this meeting
yeah, for
came up
this
with
meeting, exactly, all of a sudden it was here. So I think if we just work together to make sure that we're timing things out and that we have plenty of time to get those materials, but we were on a short time frame. But thank you.
Well, I want to make a comment. I just, we did it at the State House and we do it here. I'm gonna opposite of my council person, I think we should go paperless.
I agree.
I don't think there's any reason for us to have all this paper. We did it at the State House. There's no reason. And we have our laptops. And if we have to supplement that, we can, but I don't think we need
Yeah.
paper.
It's actually a huge cost savings. It's like when the airline took away that one olive, years ago, they said on the salad, they took one olive and the amount of money they saved from it. From a corporate perspective, we are like 100% paperless. You're actually on like a shame list. If you print something,
Yeah.
they do track who prints when. You have to print with a badge to see who printed.
Yeah.
If you want to print something, there are some things that, I enjoy writing on and taking notes or whatnot, but I think you can print that at your own liberty. And from a school perspective, even I don't need a binder with the budget. I think, that is a waste of our toner and our paper, which is actually a
I think
sizable expense.
it's a cost saving.
He's been doing it a long
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Since 2018.
Sorry, Rich, I just,
That's your personal. I still request
I-
hard copies. I'm looking at the computer all day. I get migraines. My eyes are strained. I would like a hard copy. Please.
We can.
There are certain documents we do print out
Print
that
out.
most of the time that ones we want to scribble on. So.
Back on the shared folder, so something like the ice rink documents that we talked about tonight, it would be great to create an ice rink folder and put them in there. So I think the biggest thing is, we talk about no paper, and I appreciate the no paper, being able to get back to something. So when I want to look for this ice rink document 6 months from now, and somebody asks me a question, I don't want to remember what day it was and have to search my email and filter left, right, and sideways to find it. I want to know the document is in the shared folder. And I think that's the biggest thing that this will bring to this group for collaborating. For yourselves too, right? When you go back to look at something, all of the Boyle complex documents, everything should have been in that shared folder for people to access. So we can only learn from it going forward, but big opportunities there to save time for everybody and frustration.
Is the public going to have access to this as well?
No.
No, right, just the process that we use at the school committee is it is strictly just for the school department, the school committee members. So you all are the only ones that are shared on there as well.
If they want it, they can request it kind of
Yes, so
thing.
they're private, because, sometimes, certainly our end, sometimes it is confidential, because we also put the executive session information in there as well.
Oh, that's different. Yeah.
We don't want to create a managing access nightmare for our technology departments.
Okay, anyone on that issue? Hearing none, item K, discuss the human services position and exit interviews. We will tell you, that the human resources director here has given her notice. She's leaving February 27th. We'll be going out for advertisement for that position either tomorrow or Friday. So we wanted to talk to you all about possibly doing something on your end and our end to share human resources, possibly getting an assistant to the human resources person, because now you're having your 500, I don't know what your number is, but employees and our employees, and put them all in the thing together. So we have a real, true human resources.
Yes, I can only speak for myself, but I'm 100% on board to collaborate on this and work out what the details would look like. But I think there's obviously a need in the town and for the school department. I strongly advocate that the school department needs an HR person.
Was there exit interviews done when people leave on your side?
I believe the exit interviews were done by the superintendent. We would like to, I can only speak for myself. Again, I personally think the exit interviews should not be done by any superintendent. I feel that there's something that the school committee
Right.
should take part in. I think there's, we are the, it's not a typical reporting structure like you would have at like your day job, but technically the superintendent does report to us, and you would want whoever is leaving the department to feel like they can have full disclosure during an exit interview. And I don't think that is possible when you're having the exit interview with your superior, your direct superior.
Yeah, K and L both came up at the November 13th meeting, and the human resources, I think in general, we're in favor. What we want to do is iron out in advance what is unique to a school department versus a municipal government, okay? Because there are certain things, and so that would need to be done. If we can do that, I think would be very good. Be one director and an assistant, or how it gets done. But I think we both are legal and the superintendent here, they would know more as to what the specifics that school departments have that a lot of businesses or a lot of other entities don't have.
All right, so
But it'd be
maybe,
something we'll ask.
oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
So we have just over 300 employees at the school department. And so really just, I think as we go through the budget process, because that is something that is not in our budget, we do not have any money for an additional staff person. Right now, a lot of those duties are spread out between several of our, different clerks. Between the payroll clerk, we have a human, resource specialist who does our benefits. And so a lot of those duties are spread around to different people's job description. They all report to our finance director, which we are in need of one, and we have that posted. But there's no specific person, and certainly not in our budget to have a director. So that'd just be something we would need to talk about, what we're looking at for funding, like what that position would cost and how we could possibly put that in there. But right now, that is not in our budget to have an additional person. So just.
Yeah, I think the concept would be, it would be a municipal budget, not in the school budget. So we would have an HR department. And we have about 530 employees townwide. And if we can have two people, which it would be overwhelming for one, we would have an HR department for all the people that work in the town of Smithfield. And, with all the stuff with FMLA now and it's crazy right now.
Yep.
So I think if we have two people that are really up on top of it and maintain the education and stuff required with it, they can cover the whole town and they can collaborate each other, and one can back up the other too. So it would come under the municipal budget though.
Oh, so not something that you're looking to.
No, because either way, it's an added position. So
We do have someone that manages all of our FMLA and medical benefits. There's certainly something that we could figure out on how to collaborate or, potentially work on that with the town side.
And the attempt was made at this a number of years ago and it fell flat. Okay, superintendent wise, it was like 3 superintendents ago, I'm gonna say. So, I mean, we're talking somewhere in the teens, maybe, or earlier.
2013, the performance audit talked about it. I got it right here. This was dropped off to me today. And just talked about everything that you just talked about. There's too many people, too many shared. Yeah, it goes on and on. So
I'm sorry, it talked about why it didn't work, or?
no, it just talked about the problems that no one person is responsible for keeping up on changes. That it just, everything you just talked about just talks about that right here.
And like I said, an attempt was made probably after that in response to the audit. So if that's 13, it was probably 14 or 15. And it fell flat. It wasn't well thought out. So I'm sure.
Well, we already have an we already have an HR department, so it's a matter of building on top of that and making sure we meet the municipal needs and the school department needs. That's the bigger part. And it shouldn't be that hard to identify because it has to get done anyways. And a lot of it's guided by labor law. And we all have contracts and all the other stuff. So, we're both facing the same type of issues with our employees.
Well, and that's where I would explore too. Does that department expand a little bit further to include the benefits person? So I mean, those two things go hand in hand.
So our benefits is done between HR and the finance director, but HR, 90% of it is done through human resources for the benefits.
To get back to what Chairman said, we can no longer afford to have flat tires. We have to make sure we build the infrastructure to handle the amount of people that we're covering. And as someone who's in HR, those laws change every January. Whether they're federal laws or state laws, and you better make sure you have somebody that's up on them because you can get yourself in serious trouble. Right, Ben? So we'll get on that. We'll work together. Richard, can you, maybe have the superintendent talk to Bob tomorrow about you said certain specific things,
She's right here.
certain things that needed to be maybe encompassed in the job posting, whether it's tomorrow or Friday or next Monday, that encompasses the issues that you have, so we can cover our basis when we go out for that job.
I'm just very concerned that I'm not opposed to this idea at all. I think it's a good idea. I just don't want to rush it and just create a job description. We need to identify all your needs, all our needs, you know, based on actual data and all of that. You know, we don't want to be adding 1 million positions. Well, we don't need to, we might, but we might not. So, I mean, we got to hire the right person because these are two totally separate in a sense. So, you know, I just want us to be careful with that. And if we have to pay more, then obviously that needs to be in the budget. So,
But to your point, as in 2013, they said one person cannot do it. There's too many people. So if we have to add another person, we have to add another person to do it right.
if we have to, I haven't seen that. So I don't know what he's referring to.
Well, I think, you know, when we advertise it, we would advertise it, you know, one person as the director for both the municipal side and the school side of human resources. And then we would add on a person to assist the director because of the number of employees that would now be covered would be a lot more than the old position.
Well, and this is where, like, we don't need to reinvent the wheel, right? The same way that we looked at other districts to see what they were doing for field maintenance. I'd encourage the towns to reach out to other towns to see how they're managing it. I'm sure there's some towns that are co-managing this and others that aren't, and let's learn from their experiences and see what we need to do. I think from a purely a head count perspective, that you're right, that one single person cannot maintain this.
Impossible.
I agree that I like data supporting things, but I think that's just like a ratio of the workload. I'm not sure if there's something specific data wise you're looking for, that would be good to know so that we can try to help with that other than head count and just actual hours of a person's time. And maybe job descriptions would help too, so you can see what they're doing for these
Yeah,
people.
that would be great.
That I agree.
Yeah.
I think this position is very important because, you know, we're talking about liability, and you could be on the hook for millions of dollars, especially where our insurance carrier doesn't even cover lost wages, which is, in my opinion, a big gap in our insurance. So these are very, very important positions. So if we have to hire an additional person for this, I mean, we have to. There's no question about it. And
Cheaper
I-
doing
you know,
that than settling a lawsuit.
Right, exactly.
Not
So,
only that, this is a person for staff. Staff members, like HR department is supposed to be a resource for staff, not just a protection for the town and the school department. So I'd really love our educators and our town employees to feel like they have a process when they need to escalate something. I know we have union on the school side and whatnot, but there's other things that fall into different boxes. And I'd like the staff across the town to feel supported by this position.
Thank you.
Just like,
Item M.
just one
Oh,
quick
I'm
question
sorry.
for clarity, not a problem, sir. Is the idea to, if we do collaborate human resources positions, it's lumped in with exit interviews, am I wrong to suggest that the idea would be that exit interviews would be run through this HR department? Okay.
That's what we presently do. All exit interviews are done through the HR director. And the other part of that is all the benefits, like when people retire, there's certain benefits we have to offer them by law, their healthcare and stuff like that. You know, making sure their accruals are correct and they get paid out, whatever they're supposed to be paid out. So our HR director goes through that whole thing and does an exit interview with them to get some feedback on their career, you know, with the town or whatever they're leaving. And yeah, she right now she takes care of all of that. And she collaborates with the finance department to make sure we take care of whatever needs to be taken care of.
I guess what I'm getting to is, I wouldn't feel like it's necessary to hear the results of an exit interview from a town official leaving, and nor would you guys benefit from hearing the details of an exit interview from someone in the school department.
No, so we don't share those. That's,
No, understood, but if it's all done collaboratively, we're just suggesting just to streamline all exit interviews through this.
yeah,
But then that information would solely be shared back to either body when it's relevant. to
right.
that body.
The HR department, so right now, our HR department works for all municipal departments, police, fire, senior center, town hall, everybody. So if we do this, we're just adding the school department, and the same procedures would be for everybody. So if Lisa was looking for something regarding an exit interview with somebody that she had concern about, then the HR director would share that with the superintendent.
Only reason I wouldn't have asked for clarity if before this meeting, there haven't been requests from town officials to see exit interviews for people who have left the school department. That's the only reason I was looking for clarity.
There has been requests?
I did.
Huh?
I did.
Oh, okay. I'm just not aware of it.
So just to clarify, I mean, it's just,
Yeah, those are kept private and based upon the need of the information.
So would this position be reporting to the town manager and the superintendent? Or, because I mean, there's two separate factions here, and obviously that you can't be sharing details about minors with the town side, et cetera. So I'm wondering how that would commingle legally, seriously.
There would be one municipal HR department that would cover everybody.
No, I understand that.
For the employees, not.
It's not the students.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, well,
Right.
well, all right. Well, that's.
Yeah,
what
I think we
yeah.
need to iron out, because I mean, just the questions that are kind of running through my head right now is just, as far as the onboarding, posting of job positions, job descriptions, certification requirements, all of that piece, just trying to figure out, is that something then that would be
Yeah.
handled on the
HR
town
would
side?
do-
Would there be
HR
a
would
person
do-
still on our end?
No, you wouldn't have to do anything. You get a job posting, HR has the job, they give it to you to verify the advertisement, they take care of it, they set up the interviews, whoever you want on the interview panel. Sue does everything for all of our departments, and she meets with each department head to make sure it's all set up the way they want, and takes care of everything. You don't have to touch anything. She have it, so it would be all encompassing with HR. It would take a lot off other people's plates to use this time and, and with the new person coming in, I want to make sure what we're looking at right now, that they keep up with all the current standards, they get the education they need, because there's a lot to keep up with, and that's shared amongst everybody.
And we would hope now, if we do move forward with this, that person has some experience being
On this
HR within a school
Mm,
department.
Yeah,
Right.
most of the,
I feel like in our small state of Rhode Island, that there
Yeah.
are people that have done this, that other districts combined.
That's
Right, because,
gonna be
yeah,
required,
we're a big
Yeah.
department. I don't know how big the other departments are, but being such a big department, yeah, I would just want to collaborate with you and then certainly talk about making sure we have the right person and how that would work, to your point of who that person's reporting to, just just making sure that there's a way that there's that open communication between myself and the HR director, those types of things. We
right,
just need to
you reach out,
collaborate.
you gotta get away from being two different groups here. We gotta get away from that, okay? HR works for everybody. If you call the police, they work for everybody, right? My point is, it's all encompassing. If you need something HR, you pick up the phone, Sue, I need this, and she takes care of it. So there's not gonna be any dividing line where you're the school and we're the town municipal and we're the police department. We can't operate that way. We just combine IT together between police and town hall. It was separated. There was no backup. People weren't communicating. So that collaboration gives you backup. More people know what's going on. And it just gives you more people to bounce information off of. So all of our department heads can reach out to Sue anytime they need to get stuff done. And I don't see it any differently with the school department.
Solicitor Golan, I just would be interested in knowing a little more about this position as far as authority wise, who's entitled to what information, like for instance, I doubt I'm ever gonna ask for it, but to member LeBlanc's point, if I asked for an exit interview, am I entitled to it now because I'm under this is under the town, but it's a school department issue. So I would just be interested in knowing that for the future.
Yeah, those are all boundaries that you need to set up. once you decide you're gonna go down this path, and if everybody's interested in at least exploring the concept of it, seeing basically what we get for talent once we go out for an hour, once we go out and advertise, all that, all those lines of delineation will have to be.
I want to know what's legal and
Yeah,
what's not and what we, yeah.
And I
Thank
think
you.
you can proceed with your hiring with this intent and that we don't have to come on board until you're ready.
Right.
And managing without one for a while. So I think this is different when we had discussed other positions combining and not having a person. We haven't had one for a while. So I think you can, like I said, proceed however you choose with the intent of possibly making this available to us. And then we set up those parameters if and when we were to move on.
Well, I would suggest that we have the superintendent on the interview committee.
I would love that, yeah.
No, see, so that's another good point. We have department heads and other, so right now we're gonna be getting a new HR director. There's certain people that deal more with HR and our municipal side than others. They're gonna be on the interview committee. So it would be no different here. You have you and maybe somebody else or whatever. We have a small interview committee. So when we bring that second person, if we do that, you're gonna be right there to see what they have to offer. And that whole committee collaborates and determines, hey, we're pretty picky when it comes down to, unfortunately, there's not a lot of people looking for government jobs. It's a downside.
I don't believe me, I know.
But yeah, absolutely. I mean, we always use department heads to be involved to make sure people are the right fit for what we're looking for. Absolutely.
Vice Chair, I just want to say, I don't know if I respectfully, I disagree with you in that, like, I think we need to decide if you guys are going to be on board at some point, period, yes or no, because because of people's qualifications, that'll determine, we have to, the creation of the job description, whether we want somebody with school committee school department background, et cetera. I mean, it's going to be a very important consideration. So,
It all depends on how aggressively you need to hire someone. So I don't think you're hearing any disagreement that. the
Yeah,
committee
that's
would
what I'm
move
just saying.
forward with this.
Yeah.
But you may need to hire someone.
Immediately.
well, there's no doubt about that,
So
but
we have been operating this way for quite some time. So you're gonna do what you need to do to continue to operate. And then with the hopeful intent that we can join in with this as well.
Right, because
And
as of
when
right
we
now,
come all in, we're gonna have to be all in because of the way we have different functions set up for different individuals. And we'll be jettisoning that. So when we're all in, we're all in. Okay,
right,
so
that affects, the staff that we have, but also, so you don't have an assistant HR person currently, right? So
We
they
do.
that would be like kind of the game
We
plan.
have somebody that assists her with some of their time. We have one person to build and assist all the departments. Part of her time is with HR. Okay, but it's not a full-time
So
assistant.
you would be looking to kind of expand on that and potentially.
We,
use it
you know,
as a
we would,
full-time
with
person.
500 plus people,
Right.
we would be looking for a full-time. But just remember, our
Because it would be-
priority right now is to get a new HR director and keep that thing moving along.
Right, we can chat.
Item M, discuss the enrollment predictions.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I specifically put this one in. You have some data in here. I may have the superintendent speak to it more, but it's almost the elephant in the room. You talk a lot, you guys deal a lot with, residential buildings. I mean, it's a hot topic in the town. Everywhere you go, I see signs, I see whatever. And one of the big things that happens is there's always, when it goes from planning board, zoning board, or whatever, developers will always say, well, this project with 100 units is gonna put 11.5 kids in your school department, okay? But one important thing you need to know is where our schools, particularly our elementary schools, are right now, okay? As to what they could absorb. Because anything after that, we are looking at a housing shortage in the town. One of the things I'll bring up, and I don't know what they are, I've heard different things batting around. I know there's a lot of projects that are somewhere in the pipeline. When they first come out, they always come out with a plan, and it's a formula that's been used through, I think, the planning department that says if you have this many single family, multifamily, condos, apartments, low income, and it assigns factors so that they can get a prediction as to student population. It's been in effect at least since around 2010, maybe sooner. I don't know. The one thing that I would recommend for the council to do is actually test it. I don't think it's ever been tested. Somebody comes in, all the documents are in and the 11.5 students goes through the process, changes are made here, there, whatever, and then they build, and then they build and it gets occupied. We don't know if those numbers are actually right. And a lot of stuff in the world has changed. A lot of social patterns have changed. Never mind what COVID did, but prior to that, different things have been changing. More kids living with grandparents, for instance, not predicted in your thing. People who are in a certain type of residential unit now renting, and the person that comes in to that unit has kids, you know? And so you should test it. And I think the simplest thing to do there is to look at some of the more recent developments that have been built, that have been occupied, maybe running a couple of years, and see what the documents that were filed said, and how many kids. We can get to that in a second. How many kids in an area? I know there's one right down over here, right next to Whipple Field. That was only built a few years ago. We could figure that out in seconds if you have the document and you can compare it. You can't just do one. You got to do a number to see if that data is even accurate, or if it's time that the formula gets revisited. Okay. But more importantly, as these things get approved, I know a lot of time is spent on water supplies, on sewer capacity, things like that. A very big one is the capacity for the district to house students. And I said, particularly at the elementary level, how it's calculated at the middle school and high school, it looks a little different, but the elementary level, it's much simpler. Kids are in a classroom, say 25 students in that classroom. There's a teacher. And if we don't have an extra room, now we have problems. Okay. So that's one of the reasons these are here. This is important data. And I don't know, I kind of get the sense sometimes when I've gone to a few planning and zoning board meetings, and I kind of get the sense, okay, here's this number and everybody looks at it and we're going to have X number of units and here's how many kids, and there's a gasp. That's not many. It's got to be more than that, or maybe it is. Maybe it's less than that. I don't know. Test it. Do some type of testing. It's within your capability to figure that out. So, you need further documentation or information or whatever. This tells you where we are right now.
Well, perhaps you can tell us, are you saying you can tell us how many children are in condo developments that now exist?
Well, I mean, if
In
you were
particular
to get
ones?
where the development's going to be, we have a current map that says these kids go to this school, but if that school is filled, then they go to other schools and we move them, okay, to a different school.
Right.
There's an opening, okay? We could figure that if you tell us, okay, here's the location and here's a school. Now that would, we might have to switch kids to different schools. That's the part I'm telling you. I can't predict right now, but we can at least tell you this school, here's how many openings there are.
No, but I think your question, like if you give us an address of a large development, we can tell you how many kids from that development are in our district, are going and are in our school system by breakdown.
Okay.
We don't-
Without giving names,
just
right.
A sole number.
Oh, we're just talking numbers, yeah. Is that what you're looking for, or are you looking for development?
Well, I think it'd be an interesting thing to know for planning department purposes. As far as individual projects, all of our these big projects now are under the comprehensive permit statute, which doesn't allow us to consider the effect on the school population in determining whether the planning board is going to approve the project.
Right, okay, but you still, if the project gets built, we still gotta house the students.
We still got to
So,
know, right?
Whether or not the process doesn't allow you to do it, now
still
September
have to
1st
know,
rolls around, and
right.
guess what? We have 25 kids that we need to put in. That's the
Right.
advanced planning that we need to do.
I'd rather
You know
have
what places they're going in.
the planning department come up with some numbers of existing developments, because asking a developer how many children they project, usually I don't think that's, they usually project very small numbers because they're
And
condos.
they use what our planning department put in force. I'm telling you, it's at least 2010, if not sooner, where they came up with this thing, and here's the formula. It was from some consultant or something
Right.
that somebody had, and they said, this is how you run the numbers, and it's a formula that comes out with those things. What I'm suggesting is if you look at the because they have to put it on the document. I've been to enough of those meetings to know, here's what's gonna happen here, here's what's gonna happen here, here's how many kids we expect.
Right.
Take that number that they're declaring, and let's see after it's fixed, and I would go back to ones that have already been built, is what I'm saying. Okay?
Oh, compare the two.
Already been built, and compare what their document said
Mm.
with how many students are actually there.
That's a good.
And we can get you the public students, we can get you the ones that go to, like, schools that we bus to. We can't get you the home student and home school and things like that, but we can get you most of them. And it'll give you a good idea. Because that's the problem. That's the crisis that'll happen once, I don't know, 10 projects all get developed, and here you are. And this is not a problem that we're gonna face in 2026, but it is a problem as these things come online down the road. And remember, when we redid the schools a few years ago, we built them with extra capacity in there. We didn't just say, okay, here's what we have. We said, let's put some in, and this is all pre-COVID. And let's put some in, and we will be able to absorb these things. Then, of course, COVID hit. Then, of course, the people wanting to move out of the cities. All these, like I said, a lot of social things have come into play since then. That's what you really need to do.
Okay, thank you.
I think that would be an exercise perhaps that the planner could undertake for us. He would have, not this week, but
No,
he would have the data.
Yeah.
He would have that data. Right.
One other comment, if I may, I'm sure you're very aware of this, but the developers, when they come in as well, sometimes in their packets, they have information that's incorrect. It's based on the actual, fire code, how many students or how many people are allowed to be in the building. Most recently, there was a citing that like our high school was only at half capacity. And that number was based off the fact of if you had a person in every seat in the auditorium, in every seat in the media center, in every classroom, and that's obviously not realistic. The other thing I would ask to think about is that even if you can physically fit these students into the number of classrooms, our budget is not allowing for us to hire additional educators for a growing department. So consider that as well, please.
Thank you. Item N, discuss effects of a budget cut.
That's a nice introduction that I did not intend to do, but that was a perfect opportunity. So I really, a couple of things that I wanted to discuss around this. We've had some negative impact in the school department this year that directly impacts our students related to our budget funding. Examples that I can provide, and I'm sure the interim superintendent could speak to them much better than I can, would be we had to cut our athletic trainer. So the athletic trainer travels to different sporting events for the safety of our students to address injuries, which are actually extremely common at all of our events. We're at a point right now, correct me if I'm wrong, that we have a part-time athletic trainer, which is also right now we're looking for one because it's very hard to source because as you can imagine, people don't often want part-time jobs in the area of athletic training. This puts our students at risk. It also makes our school less appealing for those that are making a decision to come here when there's not these types of resources in place. The high school admin team, listen, if you asked me 4 years ago, why, we had 2 assistant principals and a principal, I would have said, I don't know, the enrollment hasn't dramatically changed. When I was in high school, we didn't need this. I can strongly say at this point that a strong administration team is desperately needed at the high school and that our budget right now is not allowing for that to happen. One of the biggest things, we talk about capital improvements, right? And we've come before you and talked about the capital improvements that are needed and what we're going to do with the bathrooms, right? At this point, we can't even keep all of our bathrooms open because they don't have proper supervision and we have a huge vaping problem at the high school. Mr. Tassoni, I know that you are very well aware of, your program with the drugs and the committee that you meet with the high school and whatnot. So I think that you would have great insight to this on how important this is for the safety of our students. I tell you that literally on any given day, a student has to look for an open bathroom. This is because we don't have enough resources to actually patrol the bathrooms, for lack of a better term. That may sound crazy that that's where we are, but unfortunately, that's the position that we're in today. And yes, that is very different from maybe where we were 20 years ago. They can't keep the doors open because it's a privacy concern, where there are other bathrooms, say the ones that are right near the auditorium, right? Those are designed with that serpentine entrance so that you can't have a closed door. Even that, there's still, multiple kids in a bathroom. The location of it. These are just a couple examples of things we've had things that are current stressors on the district right now. The other one that I had listed on there was the third grade teacher at OCRS. So we've talked about before how enrollment numbers change all the time, right? So going into this year, Old County had more than 50 children in the third grade. Okay. So this means that you needed a third grade teacher. Halfway through the year, several students in that third grade class left our district. So now, because we are so tightly restrained on our budget, even though it's probably not the best interest of the students to move their teacher mid-year, we would have had to move the classroom and put those kids into a different teacher midway through the year. But luckily, our superintendent and others literally sit there constantly making changes and working magic to try to make this as least impactful to our students. So I know you don't, have the ability to comment on these specific situations. What I would ask you, though, is that evening when we came here with a room full of educators, community members and whatnot, you voted on the budget with zero explanation. So tonight I would ask you to please just give us some explanation as to why you didn't follow the Financial Review Board's suggestions and how we can move forward. I know you're strapped for cash across the entire town. I know the roads are a mess. I know other things, but we are moving in a very dangerous direction. The past years of our funding, whether it's capital or operational, are putting us in a really dangerous situation. And I want to know how we get to move forward from this.
So I'm going to ask you a question that's not on the agenda, if
Legally,
that's
we
okay.
can't do that.
So I received an email today from the state pertaining to the survey that you voted not to have the kids participate in. Can you tell me why?
Sure. Do you want, it's not on the agenda. I explained it if you want to watch the school committee meeting from the other night, but I explained it that night when I voted on it. So I think that's what I'm asking for. I don't know if you're playing this as like, you want me to answer something because I asked you to answer something, but I explained it that night as to why I didn't vote yes on that.
Okay,
You want me to re-explain it?
if you would.
Sure. So in my opinion, the 35 minutes that would be taken out of the educational day was not resourceful for the content that was being asked. In my opinion, the messaging the questions that were on the survey were not appropriate for some of our 12-year-olds in our district because it spanned from 6 through 12. In addition to that, I feel like something of that nature should be something that you opt into, not opt out. The example I used is when you take your child to the pediatrician and they want them to be part of some program or whatnot, they're explaining it to you, asking you to join. They're not doing it with like a general broadcast and then opting you out if you'd like to opt out. And those are sort of the maybe 3 highlights that I had.
That particular survey in the past, some school committees have said, yeah, do it, and others have said no. So the other night was not the
And if you're
first time.
I apologize. And if your concern is more around the drug related materials, I'm not really sure what direction you're going in with this. If you want to explain like why you're.
I'm just reading off an email that I got and it said, they're asking me why the school committee voted.
Vince, feel free to redirect people to us. The same way if somebody asks me a question about the town that I can't answer, I would redirect them to you, because I would say this is not my decision. It wasn't in my wheelhouse. Please reach out to your committee members and I'm sure they'd have a conversation.
No, this just came to me today. I'll show you the date.
No, great.
From BHDDH. My thing is, being in this.
Are we moving subjects totally to this now, or are we talking about mine?
Being in this business.
Yep.
Of substance use and mental health. After what happened this morning with the federal government cutting all the aid
Mhm.
for substance use and mental health throughout the country, a couple of $2 billion. And we have a massive problem.
Right.
And we have it in Smithfield and people can deny it.
Oh, I don't deny, I don't.
No, I'm not saying you did. I'm not saying, I said, people can deny it,
Mhm.
but it just, I guess if I didn't see the questions,
They don't need our survey to know that, just like you know it and I know it and everyone in this room needs it. They don't need to waste 35 minutes.
they need the survey in order to get the money to do what they
They
need to
don't.
do.
They select schools. It's
all right.
random. No, no, the way it was presented to us is that there is not direct funding linked to our voting yes or no on. it.
Okay,
So can we go back to the
Can I
questions?
add on that? The survey was anonymous, so when I voted no, a child who has those issues, we don't know who it is. Where's that money gonna go? It's gonna go to the law and not knowing how to support that student, so we're indirectly having this child answer these questions and put them in a vulnerable state, but not giving them any mental health support is how I felt. It's also, from my perspective, reading those questions, I have kids all throughout different, stages, all different developmental levels. Some of them might not be developmentally able to answer the questions that we're gonna put in front of them, with no support. It was challenging for me to vote yes, and I'd love to have a survey, maybe an opt-in survey, but that one would have been given to every student. And it was challenging, some of the questions. So are we able to share that?
I'm happy to send.
I'm gonna go to the next item. I get it. I get it.
Yeah, so do you want me to restate my question?
What's that?
Do you want me to restate my question?
Yes.
Okay, so on the evening that you voted to put the budget at what you did, which was against the suggestion of the Financial Review Committee.
Yes.
You had a room full of educators and school department folks that were telling you how desperately we needed both the operating and capital improvement budgets. Can you explain why you did not vote to give the full funding that the Financial Review Board suggested?
I could give you an answer, but I don't even remember what I had for breakfast. I mean, I could give you an answer. I mean, even
Nobody made a comment that night.
I've had a number of conversations with two prior administrators. Okay. My thing is that we never had things like this before, where we really came out and had conversations. We didn't know where the budget was. A lot of it's fabricated, not from you, from the leadership.
How about the Financial Review Committee? That's their job. I mean, they spent hours digging.
All right, you asked me a question, I'm trying to answer you,
Okay, I was
okay?
commenting on that.
So I don't necessarily believe everything I hear from administration. I mean, I get what the Financial Review Board wanted to do, but sometimes I don't always agree, like you don't always agree. Like I don't agree with what you just stated on that
Sure.
issue,
Stated
but
things.
that's fine. But my thing is that I voted no. I voted no the past 3 budgets because we're killing the taxpayer. We're killing it. We've raised the water fees, we raised the sewer fees. 1 year was like 4 point something% tax increase. Prior to that, there was a 5 point something tax increase. We're killing the young people. We're killing the young people. We need to, even here, I tell Bob all the time, you need to rein it in. You need to rein it in. Enough is enough. You know, I'm more of a Republican than I am a Democrat with this type of stuff. So,
Yeah, I was just looking for explanation from a financial perspective. If you don't believe things that are said to you by administration, that's one thing. I can't address each one of those, but from a Financial Review Board perspective, the information that was presented, again, I'm looking at the historical progression of year over year. 21, 20, I think we received 0. There's multiple years that put us in this terrible situation that we are in right now, being so far down the capital improvement hole that it's literally impossible to dig out. And now we're in a position where we're working so tight in a budget that we have 0 breathing room for our educators. We have a math interventionist that was lost at the elementary level. I cited the other teacher problem, I cited the admin problem, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. I just want to make sure you're clear of the impact on the students students in our district related to that decision. And again, I know you don't have this money tree to take money from, but that is part of your position. And I was looking for an explanation, again, not just from yourself, from any council member who is willing to give some clarity on that.
I think that there was an original amount proposed for the budget. And I thought that the town manager and superintendent did a great job in getting that number down. I didn't think it was an unreasonable amount. I was trying to prevent I didn't want to see the budget level funded. Because level funding the school department is a cut. Because you have contracts with the teachers' unions. So if you don't get an increase, it's a cut. But also, I was taking into account the fact that the school department had received additional money from the state that wasn't anticipated when the budget was approved by the Budget and Financial Review Board. And I think that was the amount that the increase that we did give an increase. That was the amount of the reduction in the increase. So I think that's where we were. One of the problems was a lack of information because we had a workshop with the budget board and I expected school committee people to be there. Maybe maybe I don't know if they weren't invited or they didn't know about it, but
We have
I
secret
expected
meetings.
that to happen. So that because the school department is that's the biggest chunk of the budget and they weren't there. So I didn't think there were any problems with the budget. And then after that, and it's always at the end of the year, we find out the actual number we're going to get from the state. That's always a problem. And so I looked into that, there were council people that wanted to cut the budget and it was kind of like a compromise. Well, they're getting more money from this side, so we'll just offset that with the budget. And I think that's how we came up with that number. Now, what I'd like to see, and I see the chair of the Budget and Financial Review Board is here. I'm glad to see him. What I'd like to see is we should have a number that is the number that contractually the school department has to pay to the personnel as part of their employment contracts, and what that number is that causes the increase in the budget.
I believe we had that in the deck, that it was in the budget deck, the breakdown of operating teachers.
And I think that's an important number to look at going forward. And I see we have a meeting, we're going to be meeting in April, which is kind of in the middle of the budget process. And so I think better communication would prevent something like that from happening in the future.
State aid did show town council last budget, and I could be wrong. I believe we got increase of state aid because special ed and our multilingual language learners, also that had to be designated to those specific areas. So although it might look like an increase, it's not that we can freely spend it, right, with certain requirements, the restriction on those funds. So that was eye-opening to me coming on the board of, oh, right, gives you this money, and it looks like, the governor puts out these awesome numbers, we got an increase, however, we can't use that at free will. It has to be towards specific programs. And, we speak about hurting the taxpayer a lot of times, and I agree, no one wants to see taxes, but when we don't fund the schools properly, we're essentially hurting a faculty, staff, administration, and students. And I don't think anybody wants to do that. I don't know the right idea for how to fix this, but our schools are hurting. We're having to cut positions left and right, and essentially, we're hurting the taxpayer. It's these students who are going to be our taxpayers. We're hurting their education. They're going to grow up and be adults like us and hopefully sit in these seats. I know most of us were Smithfield High graduates, and the same thing up there. So we're essentially hurting the future people sitting in these chairs as well. So that's the only thing I want to say going into the budget cycle is think about, yeah, we might be hurting the taxpayer, but in the long run, we're still hurting the taxpayer.
See what Councilman Ionati said about the amount of funding that you got from the state?
Yeah.
And you know where it needed to go. We don't know where it needed to go. Right, exactly.
Like, guys got so much money, what do you
Right.
think about need more? However, if we could just share that, yes, we got it, it's going to multilingual language learners, and it's going to our special education budget as well. I believe there was one other area that we had to designate that money to.
Right.
But-
Banking on the state for anything is like getting a mortgage and banking on your bonus instead of your base salary. We cannot. Every year it changes, it comes out late, then they take money back. They are not stable enough for us to consistently depend on that income into our budget.
We had
Unfortunately.
1 year, we had a massive increase, and next year they took it back and some. We had another year where they reduced our budget after the financial town meeting, after the legislature was, the last thing they did on their way out the door. And it was a couple of weeks before school, the summer, the new fiscal year is gonna happen. So, what they said is, it is a tough thing to bank things on, because it does go up and down. It's a roller coaster type ride with them. Now, one thing these meetings are supposed to be is improve communication. So if I hear that you don't trust figures or whatever, and you need that, we're going to try to make sure that this year, the numbers that you see, that when we tell you, that you'll have confidence in. It's a two-way street. You can't tell me after the fact, well, I don't believe that number. You gotta tell me up front why you don't believe the number, so I can explain it to you. One thing I know from a number of years of working on these budgets, we don't hide stuff in there. We don't hide positions. That may have happened 40 years ago, and I've heard stories from, old timers and all that. When we deal with our special ed kids, they are what we know coming in, what we have, and what we know is gonna hit the door on September 1st. We don't hide one in there. Oh, we're gonna extra special ed, that doesn't take place.
I'm glad you
Some
mentioned,
things are rounded up, by the way. We do round some things because we have to make estimates on a number of things, so.
I'm glad you mentioned special ed because, I went to a workshop that the school committee had, a few months back, and it's incredible what the requirements are, on a school, one student, if sending a child they have to transport a child to a school somewhere. I mean, the financial, burdens on the districts are incredible. Absolutely incredible. And, they come up and you have to pay it, whether it's in your budget or not. And it can be a very large amount of money. So, and I assume that's why you have the fund balance to cover that. Because, how do you budget? How do you budget for the unknown?
Our accounting people tell us we're not supposed to take ongoing, regular expenses out of our fund balance. And we try not to do that. It does help us if we come up at the end of a year with a big problem, but it's not a good accounting practice to do that type of stuff. It's supposed to be in your actual budget. But what I'm really saying is if you need the information or you don't think the information is accurate for whatever reason, you don't trust somebody. That's what these meetings are supposed to do. We have another one coming up in April or whatever, and our figures will be out, et cetera, and it'll be grinding through the machine that we have set up for a budget process. But that's where you gotta let us know. Why don't you believe a number, and we'll do our best to explain it.
All right, so what is your projections?
What's that?
Item O, your projections.
Item O. Yes, I will turn that over.
Uh,
Yeah.
Well, I will say, I joined the district back at the end of June and diving into the budget now as the interim superintendent and assessing at the number of folks we have in the district. I will say this district is very lean. We do not have a lot of fluff. I was at a meeting just recently with other neighboring superintendents. And, we have instructional coaches and other things today. We were at an AI session with the state, and there are folks who are, technology specialists and all these things. We don't have any of that. There really is no fluff here in Smithfield, even just looking at, what we were talking about earlier, the business department. Already, and I know I've already shared this with, some of the union leadership as well as, administrators. Right now, as far as, you're talking about those numbers of what we definitely contractually need to do. We're looking at a 3% increase for our teachers' contract. They have a 3% increase and then, step raises. You all know the increases just in probably your daily bills of utilities, electricity, water, what have you, those increases. Medical is always an increase every year. We're expecting that to go up. I'm still kind of waiting on, I've got some projections, but no definite numbers yet, but I'm guessing in the, 5 to 8% increase there. Our transportation is a tricky one. The DACO here in Smithfield, which is not the case in all DACO districts, but DACO here in Smithfield is unionized. They just finished their negotiation with their union. So it's very interesting. We're in the middle of a contract, so we're at our 3rd year. We're at an opportunity where we can either extend that or go out to bid. But meanwhile, they had to negotiate with the union. They have a 3-year contract. This first year is the last year of ours. So it's very interesting on just the cycle and the overlap. What they have negotiated is an opportunity for which many of our bus drivers and monitors are residents of Smithfield, but they are getting the opportunity to have a pension and medical benefits. So that is driving our cost up significantly. Anywhere, and some folks that are going out to bid, other neighboring districts that are going out to bid are seeing these same numbers. We're looking at anywhere from a 10% increase, that's at a minimum is my expectation, actually 10.5% increase for our busing contract for next year. Other districts, if they're going out for bid, are seeing more in the 15 to 18% increase because these benefits are now being offered for, our bus drivers and our monitors. It's a huge cost. I'm really concerned about it as I look through the numbers. So based on just the contractual pieces, we're already looking at significant increases. I'm playing it conservative right now with what we're going to get from the state. So even if we're level funded, based on that amount, we're going to be significantly over. As of right now, I'm already in my preliminary budget looking to cut a few staff of teachers. And I'm looking to figure out ways to do that elsewhere as well. I don't see right now in any way of getting a budget. I'm still working on it, but trying to get that number down. I think, I can't ask you all for more than 4%. I'd like to get it to 3, but it's going to be tight, and it's not going to be without having significant cuts to be able to compensate for these other areas. So that is the balance and the dance that we will be tackling over the next several months. But I need to figure out ways to cut. We have mandates that are required. This year we need to implement science curriculum at the elementary level based on the legislation for the high quality curriculum materials. We need to do that. They've punted it another year, but this year is coming due. So I'm looking at how are we going to afford all of that. So I am preparing to show obviously the committee, but certainly I'm happy to send that over as well to you all on just the rotation, the cost of all of the curriculum materials that that we need to do that are mandates that I have no control over. I mean, it is in the best interest of kids, but that is our main business. Trying to look at that. So any potential expanding of sports teams or any of the wish lists or adding interventionists and any of that right now is not even on my radar without sending our budget over the potential need for more than 4%. So I'm going to list all of that and figure out what that would cost out. But I am losing sleep over it, to be quite honest. And we're of course in the middle of a transition of trying to find a permanent finance manager, but it's going to be very tight, and I don't see how I'm going to do it without removing staff.
Thank you. I think that
I misspoke a little earlier when I said we'd take up the liaison thing in our next meeting. Our next meeting is actually a budget workshop. So the 22nd is our committee will look at the budget the first time. I'll take the liaison at the following meeting, which is beginning of February. So.
I think as long as superintendent, you're in that position and you have conversations with Bob and Bob will decipher it to us.
Absolutely.
I think it'll be a good thing. I think it was maybe not the best, the previous couple of administrations with the town manager here, but I mean, I know you're new. I know you got a lot on your plate.
I'm trying my best and
Um,
I understand.
That's all we can do is try our best. That's all we can
Yeah.
do.
Thank you. And I understand, believe me, I don't want to, overburden our residents here. But just to be able to meet basic contractual obligations, be able to offer programs, so we're not losing students. So we recently just were awarded approval to expand our biomedical pathway. So we're running that as a pilot. The first year, this current year that we're in, we can now take students in. We were losing students to other programs for that. So there is opportunity to bring others, but those programs also need an investment, right? So when you're taking in the tuition from sending districts for some of those students, it benefits our students here in Smithfield. We wouldn't be able to run, a biomedical pathway or any of the, probably most of the programs here without having some of that to be able to reinvest in them. So I would caution, and I would say the same thing in next week, caution using those funds to completely fill a gap. So that way we can continue to invest in those programs to make them great, to bring, additional students in. Yes, if there's an offset of costs that can help us balance the budget, but not just counting that entirely as revenue to be able to plug holes in the budget.
So
But
what
we're
would,
going to expand all of that. There's a
what would
lot.
be the startup cost for that?
So we've invested, and I have to pull direct numbers. I know this past year, because we're implementing a program called Project Lead the Way, which is a required curriculum for those programs per the state's standards that the CTE board sets for the state. There's a cost we did get some grant money for that. So anytime that we can use grant money. So we did have some of the startup costs for the biomed was covered by grants. The rest was put on the local side. So we did have a couple, for the first year, it was several $1,000s to get the equipment that we need. And then the training. So the training for those teachers, we actually had grant from the state as well to cover that. So we are actively seeking money for those programs. But biomedical, for example, there's a lot of consumable needs that you would have to run that program. They dissect eyeballs. They, do all kinds of different things. So that you need to keep purchasing every year. So a lot of those, the lab portion of those programs do have a cost to keep running those. But they're great programs and I have no doubt that,
So would you say it was about 25,000?
I would have to look at, I don't want to say a specific number, but I'm happy to get those numbers for you.
Yeah, if you can give that to Bob.
Sure.
And see, the thing on the CTEs is they're all totally different.
Each-
Some will have equipment, heavy equipment, not heavy equipment, but equipment, dollar purchases that are important. The culinary, we actually had to do some modifications to rooms, so that's a
Right.
capital type thing. Others, you probably need more training of some of the faculty and staff. So you could take one CTE, there's gonna be a
They're not-
big difference in the cost. Another,
Hey, hold
what
on.
the superintendent is basically saying, you're still getting for that student, no matter what program they're coming in, you're still getting the same tuition. And so you can't be, it's like a business now. You can't be spending all that money that you just brought in on that. You got to save some because you got to reinvest it
Mhm.
into that program. And each program has a different need or a different investment.
And we still have students going out to other districts. So right now we are just barely over the break-even point. So in the past, actually, the district was losing money, so the number of students that were going out as we've improved and increased programs. We've been recapturing students and actually getting students in. So we're just over the break-even point. So we've got let's say 2 or 3 kids coming in compared, above than what we're sending out. So
I had a
it helps, but
okay.
yeah.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
So I just had a question for you. I'm not sure if you break it down this way for the budget board. I don't recall. I would be interested at some point when you do your budget. would you be able to maybe make a notation of the line items, what is state mandated versus contractual versus you're free to do whatever you want with it? Is that too much to ask?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I think I'll have to
Or
work
in
with the
general,
group,
maybe
but
not
I
even
think
line
that we could
items,
certainly
but
have
general
some-
buckets.
There's some information on
They-
what's mandated and what's not. So the curriculum piece for science, math, and ELA certainly is mandated. We have, chemistry books that are, I think, 20 years old. Where's my
Yeah, I'm not gonna.
20
remember
years
that,
old,
so.
that are falling apart, that just keep getting, punted from year to year because they'll
Sure.
get cut. Library books are not
Yeah.
required a certain amount or number,
Right,
but we
right, right.
cut that last year. So those are the things that I guess are the nice to haves that are important to, school and our educational program.
Just out of
Yeah,
curiosity.
so there
you
are some
understand.
flexibility with certain things.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
All right.
Strongly encourage you to attend our budget meeting, so it definitely, Mr. Iannotti came to this special education workshop, and I think it's very informative for you, DeCoyan stopped by as well and had information from the state level and whatnot. There's the context there, and I know you can watch it back too, but if you're there live in the moment, we can answer questions, because it's all on the agenda, it's all budget related, so it would be, kind of like a mini workshop, that's our typical, all budget focused.
All right, thank you.
And, one more thing, it paints a very dismal picture, unfortunately, because all that's covering is what it's
That-
what it's ignoring. No, it's very true.
No, it's true.
But the sad reality is what
not
that's
getting
what
it.
that's ignoring is growth, right? That's just contractual obligations, unknown transportation costs. And if you just look at like the history of transportation costs in the state over like the past 8 years, it'll absolutely blow your mind. And that's stuff that we can absolutely just kind of, go backdate some of those figures and give them to you. And also with those scary projections of how it's going to move forward. So what I fear is that, let's say that we do get, let's say, I'm just gonna throw numbers out there, a 2.5% increase. Well, if that only offsets some of our contractual obligations and doesn't even touch the transportation increase that we could be facing, then we're doing the opposite of growth. We're going backwards, so that's something that we just need to keep in mind as well. Last year, it wasn't a surprise that it was a contract year with the teachers, so I was pretty disappointed just in general when the increase to our operating budget didn't even offset those costs. And I think that those costs were pretty transparent. I was here when the superintendent at the time presented those increases. Now, whether or not they should have been presented a little clearer ahead of time to digest them a little bit better, as opposed to just hearing them in the moment. Maybe that's something that could be better. Because it was a very just, okay, we know that our costs are going to increase this much, but you're going to give us 80% of that. So how is that not going to cost either? Luckily, fortunately, we didn't lose any heads this year. But one thing that we also ignore is we have like that wish list from every school where the shortfalls are for paraprofessionals at the elementary schools, another special educator to lighten the load at like the middle school and the high school, math and list, another assistant principal at the high school. All those things are just, it's not a reality without any growth of funding, unfortunately, to offset the cost. So, thank you.
Okay. Next meeting is April 8th at 6 o'clock. Where would you like to have that meeting?
I would recommend the high school. Probably most likely the media center.
October 14th. I'm gonna hold off on that one because it's an election year, so we don't know who's gonna be here, who's not gonna be here. No sense of having a meeting if 10 of us are not running again, but just a joke. So why don't we have that discussion at a later time about the October 14th meeting? We could probably move it up to maybe September. But we'll talk about that at a later date. I'm gonna open it up now for public comment. Any of the public would like to come to the front of the room and going once, going twice. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I have a second.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?